Joining us now from Jerusalem with his analysis is George Birnbaum, Chief Strategist and Pollster for new Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. George, welcome. Thank you so much for your time today. So tell us about the mood in the country right now. A big change after 12 years.
Yeah, hi, Tracy. It's good to be with you this evening. A big change. There is probably about half of the country that's excited about the change. Another half of the country that's not so excited. I mean, this coalition passed a conference vote in the Knesset of 60 to 59. So, literally split down the middle. But as in any democracy, there's been a peaceful transfer of power, and there's a lot of hope riding on the shoulders of this coalition.
George, I understand that you also worked with Benjamin Netanyahu. What would you say is the difference between the two men as far as leadership style? And what can the U.S. and the world expect to see from the new prime minister?
Well, this is the current prime minister, Naftali Bennett. His parents were American-born and raised. I mean, he was born in Israel after his parents moved to the country. He grew up in Israel, but he spent a lot of time in the United States, in the high-tech world, in the business world. He is a very capable manager. He's a very unbelievable political acumen, able to get people of different backgrounds to work together towards a common goal, something that will be absolutely necessary given the diversity and the ideological range within this coalition. But he is the first, actually, modern Orthodox Jew to govern the state. He's Sabbath observant, keeps kosher. He's going to be a role model in many ways for the very Jewish aspects of Israel, and at the same time very ecumenical in terms of his background in the business world as well. So he's going to be a very different leader than Netanyahu. And we have to remember, when Netanyahu first became prime minister, back when I worked with him in 1996, he was a young man and a little bit inexperienced as well. And so I think to compare 49-year-old Prime Minister Naftali Bennett to over 70-year-old seasoned Benjamin Netanyahu is not exactly fair. And we have to give him time to have the weight of leadership on his shoulders and see how he copes with that.
Yeah, and as we heard, U.S. lawmakers are focusing on Prime Minister Bennett's attitude towards the nuclear deal with Iran. What can you tell us about where he stands on that issue?
Well, I don't think it'd be fair for me to put out any kind of policy statements at this point. It's not my job to do that. I can tell you that Prime Minister Bennett has on many times said that there is no way the Iranians will ever have a nuclear weapon, that is an existential threat to the state of Israel and, of course, to its neighbors as well. And so I can tell you that his position has always been there will never be a nuclear Iran. But for me to put out an official policy statement would not be appropriate, nor is it my job.
And we understand the new prime minister met with his predecessor today. What can you tell us about that meeting and also the future for Netanyahu? Do you think he'll make a comeback?
Well, it really wouldn't be appropriate for me to divulge anything that was said between the two men. But in terms of Benjamin Netanyahu, we heard in his speech as opposition leader yesterday, which is a very strange title to give to the former prime minister. He made it very clear that he wasn't planning on going anywhere. It was a very strong speech. It was the speech of an opposition leader. And what will be unique is that you don't have an opposition leader who's just an opposition leader. You have an opposition leader who is the prime minister for the past 12 years, with all the knowledge and experience and his political acumen to go with that. And so it will be fantastic political theater, to be sure, something we're all going to watch from that point of view. But can he make a comeback? Sure. The potential is there. Really, a lot will depend on whether or not this coalition and Prime Minister Bennett are successful, hold the coalition together, and achieve real successes for the country. If that's the case, it will make it hard for any opposition leader to rattle that coalition.
Well, George, thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. George Birnbaum, Chief Strategist and Pollster for new Prime Minister Naftali Bennett. Thank you again.
Thank you.